Another assignment. I sighed as I took one final sip of my drink and, setting the glass on the bar, I turned to leave the lounge. As I was heading out, I spotted my friend Mark walking in and paused to greet him. "How goes it, Mark? Are you off today, or do you have an assignment too?" "Nope, my friend," he replied with a big grin. "I'm off for the next 2 days. I did such a good job on my last mission that they rewarded me with 2 full days off and a trip to the beach." "The beach?" I said, surprised. "Isn't that usually reserved for the higher-ups?" "Yeah, but they said I did so well that I'm getting a special pass, full access. Pretty great, right? I can't wait to relax on that white sand and enjoy the view instead of being the one under the spotlight for once." "You lucky guy," I teased. "I've been trying to earn a weekend there for ages, but I always fall just short of qualifying." "Well, enjoy it. Just don't have too much fun, okay? Remember, come Monday, it's back to the usual routine, heels and skirts included." "Ugh, you had to remind me," Mark groaned with a dramatic roll of his eyes. "I get a whole weekend away from that, and you throw a wrench in my happiness." "Thanks a lot, pal. I'll remember this when you get a chance at the beach." "Hey, what are friends for?" I laughed. "Seriously though, nice work on that last assignment. You really went the extra mile." "Thanks, Jerry. I had to show that guy that just because he enjoyed things like silk stockings and lace, it didn't mean he was worth any less, and it definitely didn't mean he should give up on life. You know, it's funny. When I first got posted here, I had a completely different idea of what heaven would be like." "Tell me about it," I said. "I thought I was headed for the other place, if you know what I mean. Then I get here, and they tell me I can't qualify for full membership until I complete a few little tasks to prove my worth." Huh. A few little tasks. This has got to be the most challenging time of my whole existence, or maybe I should say my afterlife. Just then, a buzzer sounded, followed by a voice over the intercom. "Proby Jerry, report to the interim office immediately. Your next assignment is waiting." "Well, Mark, there's my master's voice. I've got to head out. Enjoy your weekend, and don't get too used to that male body. Come Monday, it's back to the usual routine, hair, makeup, and wardrobe changes." I couldn't resist getting in one last playful jab at him. "Don't I know it, Jerry? I'm going to make the most of these next 2 days, you can bet on that. I'll deal with Monday when it comes. Until then, I'm going to enjoy every minute of the break." "Have a good time on your new assignment, my friend. Any idea what it is yet?" "Nope," I replied. "I'm sure they'll tell me everything when I get to the office. I'd better go. See you later." And with that, I left the lounge and headed for the office. As I walked, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here to what they called the Interim Office of Intervention and Prevention. This department, or rather this branch of heaven, was designed as a way for people like me to earn their wings, so to speak, a path toward redemption and peace. You see, in my life, I had always wrestled with a deeply personal side of myself that I never fully accepted. I had always been curious about exploring a more feminine side of my identity, but shame and fear kept me from doing so openly. I hid it behind closed doors, and that secrecy strained my relationships. I lost 2 marriages because I couldn't be honest about who I was or seek the help I needed. My self-loathing grew over the years. I felt trapped and alone. In a moment of deep despair, I made a tragic decision to end my life, a choice I deeply regret now. If I had known then what I know now, I would have sought help, spoken openly, and chosen to keep living. But hindsight is always clearer, isn't it? What happened next was beyond anything I had ever imagined. I experienced what many describe in near-death stories, a long tunnel, a bright white light, and the sensation of weightlessness. I remember seeing my body below as paramedics tried to revive me, and then I simply drifted upward until I found myself in what looked like a waiting room. There I was, sitting in nothing but my undershirt and shorts, a little embarrassed to be in such a public place dressed so casually. Around me were about 5 other people, most in a similar state, except for one person who was dressed beautifully and confidently in feminine attire. We exchanged a few glances before looking away, unsure of what to make of it all. The person in the dress, though, seemed far more at peace. Their makeup was subtle and elegant, not overdone, and I remember thinking that if I could have ever looked as self-assured and composed as they did, maybe I would have had the courage to be more open about myself while I was still alive. So, there we all sat, waiting for who knows what. From time to time, a voice echoed from somewhere unseen, calling out a name. Each time, one of us would rise, walk to a door, and disappear through it. I tried to stand and leave before my turn, but something held me in place until finally, I heard my own name. I stood, crossed the room, and stepped through the door, closing it gently behind me. Inside, I found a cozy office, warm and welcoming. Behind a desk sat a friendly-looking person who rose to greet me with a calm and confident voice. "Welcome, Mr. Jennings," they said. "My name is Jeremy, and I'm here to offer you an opportunity. If you accept, you'll have the chance to grow, to learn, and to earn your way into a better place. If you turn it down, well, let's just say the journey ahead would be much more difficult." Now, I hadn't been a terrible person in life. I wasn't particularly religious, but I also never mocked those who were. Sure, I'd cut a few corners here and there in my career, maybe pushed past a few people on the ladder of success, but I hadn't truly hurt anyone. And yes, I had struggled deeply with a part of myself that I didn't fully understand, and that shame had once driven me to a very dark place. "Exactly right, Jeremy said gently, clearly reading my thoughts. "This is where you'll begin to understand that exploring your identity, or expressing yourself in ways society might not understand, is not something to be ashamed of. And you know, of course, that the universe isn't ruled by an angry force waiting to punish you, right?" Well, I replied nervously, I never really thought about it. It wasn't something I spent much time considering. I always figured that what we do is our own choice, and that when life ends, that's just it. Jeremy listened patiently, nodding with understanding as I spoke. When I finished, they invited me to sit in a comfortable chair across from their desk. "Jerry," they said, pausing to be sure I was comfortable with the name. "You're here because, while you did make mistakes, you never truly caused lasting harm. The people you stepped on, as you say, weren't ruined by it. In fact, you likely would have earned your place here regardless, if not for how deeply you struggled with accepting yourself, and for that one devastating choice you made as a result of that pain." They offered me something to drink. I asked for a soda, and they kindly brought one over with ice before continuing. "Now, this opportunity is meant to accomplish a few things," Jeremy explained. "First, it's here to help you see that many of the things society labels as wrong, such as expressing a different gender identity, are not wrong at all. They're simply part of the vast diversity of human experience. Second, we hope you can use what you've learned to guide and support others who might be struggling as you once did. If you succeed, if you help others and grow from this experience, you'll be able to move forward, fully, into the next chapter. This place is a way station, a place to reflect and prepare. If, however, you refuse to learn, or if you turn away from the opportunity to help, the path forward will be far more challenging." I think you understand what I mean. I sat there thinking deeply. Could I have been wrong about how I saw myself? Were all the things I had believed about people like me, people who explore a different side of themselves or even choose to transition, completely misguided? Was the person speaking to me a man or a woman? Did that even matter? One thing was certain. I was here, and this was real. This wasn't a dream or some hallucination. And in that moment, I made a decision. I would accept the opportunity being offered to me. I didn't know exactly what it would involve, but I knew that I didn't want to turn away from a second chance. "Yes, Jerry," the person said gently, once again reading my thoughts. "To be honest, this program is still very new. In the past, we've seen too many people lose their way, not because they were bad people, but because they never had anyone to guide them toward understanding and self-acceptance. We realized we needed a different approach." They stepped out from behind the desk and perched on the edge of it, looking at me with quiet intensity. Some people, unfortunately, do great harm to others. They act out of cruelty or malice, and their actions leave deep scars. But many others, people like you, have simply struggled to understand themselves. They carried so much shame and pain that they made choices they might not have made if someone had shown them that they weren't broken. We want to change that. Pacing slowly across the floor, they continued, eyes never leaving mine. What we're asking you to do, Jerry, what we need you to do, is return to the world and be a guide for others who feel lost the way you once did. We'll help you find people who are hurting, people who feel trapped by society's expectations, people who believe they're not worthy because they don't fit a narrow definition of what a man or woman is supposed to be. Your mission will be to stand beside them, to listen, to show them that they are not alone and that their worth isn't determined by anyone else's judgment. They stopped pacing and looked at me with a gaze that felt like it could see straight into my soul. We don't know how successful this program will be, Jerry, but we believe every person deserves the chance to find peace, to feel seen, and to understand their own value. And we believe you and others like you can help lead them to that. We need you to do this, not just for yourself, but for the people whose lives you might change simply by being an example. So now it's up to you. Will you take this chance to grow, to guide, and to give others hope? Or will you walk away from yourself again as you once did? The choice is yours, but you must decide before you leave this room. I sat there, stunned by the enormity of what they were asking me to do. I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want to waste this second chance. Even if I wasn't sure how good I'd be at helping others, I was determined to try. Yes, I blurted. I'll do it. I can't promise I'll succeed, but I will give it everything I have. Maybe, by trying to guide others, I'll finally understand myself too. If I can help even one person, then I have to try. Good, she said, smiling warmly. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. It won't be easy, Jerry, I won't lie about that. It's going to be a long and challenging journey, but I believe you're the right person for it. Thank you. She walked over, pulled me out of the chair, and embraced me. At first, I hesitated. I was still uncertain about who or what she was, but then I realized that if I was going to accept this mission, I needed to let go of those doubts. I relaxed and returned the hug. That was the first step, she whispered. If you'd refused that simple connection, you would have failed before even starting. And for the record, yes, I am a woman. I used this voice as a test, and you passed. Welcome aboard. Your training starts now. When you leave this room, someone will be waiting. Trust them and follow their lead. She pointed toward a door I hadn't noticed before. I was still self-conscious about standing there in nothing but my underclothes, but it didn't seem to matter to anyone else. I opened the door and stepped through. Waiting for me was a young woman who silently motioned for me to follow. We walked through a maze of corridors until she stopped in front of another door. She entered first, then beckoned me inside. The room was completely empty, featureless walls, no furniture. I started to ask about it, but she gestured for silence and turned to face one wall. I've got a new recruit ready for orientation, she said into the air. You want to stop messing around and help him, or do I need to tell Beth you're refusing again? For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like something out of a magic show, furniture and equipment shimmered into existence all around us. I was too amazed to speak. An older man appeared, shaking his head. You just don't appreciate my sense of humor, Marcy. This job gets boring, and a little fun keeps things interesting. Why shouldn't I give the newbies a small surprise?